We have information about working conditions for FSL teachers in Canadian public schools. We'll be focusing on administrators. There's a lack of research relating to what we know about what administrators know and believe and think about FSL programming. We'll be hearing about an increasing number of new Canadians, and Callie will bringing a perspective and focusing on new Canadians as an untapped resource in our FSL programming. The whole issue of males and understanding and retaining and recruiting and motivating males is an issue not only in education in general, but in FSL in particular. And we, of course, especially with recent news in one of our Canadian provinces, the variable status of French immersion programs certainly is of concern as one of the issues that will also be included in this afternoon's discussions. You may say, disconnected mess. My job is to convince you, no, it's not a disconnected mess. Of course, you know about the l'ancien plan maintenant, plan d'action. There was a new one announced yesterday, but that plan d'action, and that's what drove what became the impetus for a lot of the projects that are included in today's session. That goal of doubling the number of functionally bilingual Canadians by 2013. Is this still a goal? In fact, I haven't read the new plan, and is it included at all? Nicole is waving back there, no mention of it. Probably because it would belong to a certain other politician. Of course, we know that studying a second language is mandatory in 7 provinces and 2 territories, and that word mandatory may come back a little bit later at some point. French is the mandatory language in all provinces except in British Columbia, where there is a choice, although French does tend to be the most prevalent language taught. We know that the number of eligible students studying languages is dropping, although in some programs, of course, the number of students enrolling in them is increasing, but where enrollment is dropping, boys are dropping out, especially at the secondary level. And I already alluded to this, that our only officially bilingual province wants to drop early immersion. We know that immigration in Canada is on the rise. We're dealing now with more than just French and English. We know about those famous or infamous PISA test results, forcing and pushing governments to put more emphasis on school subjects like math and literacy, first language literacy, and science, contributing to a decreasing status of FSL. And of course, we have teachers, linchpins for our programs, but we have certainly lots of comments about shortages of teachers and lots of discussions around competencies and qualifications of teachers. So I argue that all of these issues are connected to an ever-decreasing status of FSL learning and teaching in Canada. We together must redress the status of FSL. And I think probably if we're in this room, that's of concern to us. But to do so, I believe that we need a much more in-depth understanding of the above and many other themes to achieve this goal. Do you agree? I knew you. It's easy to preach the converted. What do I mean or we mean by socio-cultural and socio-political? Difficult to sometimes define, and I have just learned about inspiration, the software. Yeah, we see that, and I'm very proud of myself because I'm usually not very good at such things. Not that this is fabulous, but we're going to be looking at and discussing topics like social cohesion, diversities and cultures, and I wanted those to overlap, but many of these overlap. Identity overlaps with cultures and diversities, but also overlaps with gender, which is down there somewhere. Well, actually, I didn't put gender separately. I've got identity, motivations. We've got bilingualism / plurilingualism, and you'll hear discussions about our discourse around which term are we using and what are we referring to. And we'll hear about issues of inclusion, exclusion, interaction, social and cultural interactions. We'll hear about oral and written discourse, official, formal, informal, small p policies, small p politics, big P politics, big P policies, rights, status and power. There will be some reference to language as an economic, cultural, and political tool. The list could go on. This is informed to some degree by sort of theories of critical sociolinguistics, if one will. I've got a lot to learn and to read about that area. But this is my attempt at this point, and as I write the introduction to what's going to be the report for this final project, what does sociocultural and what does sociolinguistic? We will not be looking at minute micro-analysis of language, per se, in student production. Not that that's not valuable, but that won't be the function or the focus of this afternoon. So, quick brain break time, and I am on commission with the PEI Tourism, and invite you to come and join us in PEI. It's now time for the others, and I'll pass you on to Kelly Mady.